Live. We are live. Welcome, folks. This is Doug Crow, and I got to tell you something. I've got on the show today a senior executive with 22 years experience in customer experience, business strategy, cross-cultural team leadership, change management, organization renewal, brand building, the works. And her resume, I don't have time to read her whole resume, so I have to bullet point it because it's so extensive. 11 years at Procter & Gamble with experience in all three global business units, from front-end innovation to retail. She's a head of retail marketing in Asia for a little company you may have heard of called Apple. Now she's also worked with Intercontinental Hotel Group, a $2.7 billion company, and was also, of course, a CMO of China for another company you may have heard of. She was a senior VP of marketing of Starbucks. She's now working for the McCann Group worldwide in China, and you won't find a classier and sharper executive than this woman, who's here to talk about something that fuels her beyond her work, beyond household brands, beyond international business stuff. She's going to talk today about her new book called The Spare Room. So pay attention, folks. I'm honored to have with us today Emily Chang. Emily, tell us everything.
Thanks so much for having me.
Very well. 20 minutes or less. Tell us the whole thing. So that's you. You're like the Forrest Gump of business, and you've been like everywhere.
Well, I didn't ever plan it. I think there were a lot of great opportunities that came up. And for me, it was always, does this sound like something I can learn from and grow from? And is there something that I can contribute uniquely to? And there was this quote I read like 20 years ago, dance to life's rhythms instead of making life march to yours. So for an undergrad science major and a finance MBA person, I've ended up here because I like that quote and I kind of followed its philosophy.
Followed it and actually executed on it. A lot of people think, they talk the philosophy, don't walk the walk. And you've obviously walked it, so that's impressive. So you're cool. You've been there, done that, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about your book, The Spare Room. So I watched the TED Talk. We've chatted briefly a couple times before this, but for the people who don't know what this is about, I'd love to hear your story on this. And of course, I want you also, there's a book available. We'll talk about the book in a minute, but I want to hear Emily's perspective on how it came to being.
Yeah, I guess I'll start by saying it was a creative experience. So every year, I and both of my husband and my daughter pick something to try. It keeps us out of our comfort zone and it keeps us stretching towards something, but not in a way that, you write New Year's resolutions and then, 90% of them don't get done by the end of the year. We pick one thing each year that we say, let's just see if we can do it. And I think something that's important is it's something that we've either never done before or that we're afraid to do. And we don't define success or failure. We simply say we're going to try it. So it's been everything from learning the cajon drum to, learning how to pour a perfect espresso to how to run a marathon. So it's been everything. And one year I decided, you know what, let's see if we can write a book. And I'll tell you, that was a couple years ago, actually, Doug. And I ended up putting it on the back burner because I was invited to do a TEDx talk, my first one. And I thought, oh, that's a great way to tell the story. Maybe it's not about a book. Maybe it's just storytelling. So I did the TEDx at Shanghai Theater, which was amazing. And it's a 9-month experience preparing for a proper TEDx. So it was kind of like birthing a child.
9 months, yes.
Yeah, pretty much. And then after that, I thought, let's put the book on the back burner because I think maybe the thing was done. And then I kind of continued to kind of feel this nagging thing. And a lot of friends were saying, you should still write this book. And some of the kids in our spare room were encouraging us, we would love it if you would write our stories. Some did not, but some did. And we thought, well, maybe in the future. And I started to carve out a couple hours every weekend. Eventually, it came to a point where a family had an opportunity to go to the States. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my career. And I've never stopped. I've kind of been, to your earlier introduction, recruited one job after the other. And I just kept going and loved it. But I thought, some things you don't have to wait until you retire to do. Some things maybe are better done now while they're fresh on the mind and while I have the real passion to do it. So that year I said, well, let's write the book and let's give it a year. And there's no success. We don't have to find an agent. I don't even know how to do that. We don't have to publish. I just want to write all the stories down and kind of let it be a creative experience. And then it just unfolded like dancing to life's rhythms. And we did find an agent. And when I say this whole thing has been very much a family affair because it's also our story as a family. And then we came to a place where a publisher was interested. So it started off as a memoir of stories from our spare room. And I'll talk about what that was. And then it eventually became an anthology of stories to kind of broaden appeal and relevance for people across all different walks of life, countries, industries, and levels. And then, I think I started my career at Procter and Gamble, and a little bit of my proctoid came back because I really wanted somebody to close the book and not just think, oh, that was really nice, or oh, cool, but I don't know what to do. I wanted it to be a really actionable experience so that by the time you close
Mm,
the book, you not only feel inspired, hopefully, but you also say, I know what I want to do with my life. So it's
mhm.
sort of, at this point, I would say it's less of a book, more of a call to action. And my desire would be that it becomes a movement.
I love that. I love that so much. So many, our company, of course, publishes books, and it's like I unfortunately have to reject most of the people that we talk to because it's just about wanting to become famous or promote their own stuff, which is fine, nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't serve me, personally. I want to do
Mm.
things that make a difference in the world. So we're very honored to work with you on this. So now we want to get to the meat of this now, the spare room. What is this about? Airbnb or what?
So, yes, it started off as a kid that I drove by on a rainy, cold night, and she was beaten up, and I couldn't leave her on the street.
Mhm.
So it didn't start off with a lot of intention, I will fully admit. It started off
Mhm.
as like, gosh, that little girl needs a safe place to stay.
How old
And
was she?
then she was she was 13, just turned 14 at the time, and looked about 8. She was
Yeah.
Asian. She
Mhm.
certainly, there was sort of this like, gosh,
Yeah.
that person looks a lot like me. And she had
Yeah.
run away from home very, very quickly, ended up on the street, was trading sexual favors for food. And if you had just kind of stepped back and said, guess what, Emily, you're going to be working 3 jobs, trying to get your double degree, and you're going to take in a teenage prostitute who's homeless, I would have been like, you are out of your mind. There's no way I'm doing that. And I think that's part of the story. I want to be really vulnerable in my experiences, Doug, because it's
Yes.
not like I'm a good person. It's not like I tried to do something. It's like, look, I took one step. I took her to dinner. And then as she was
Okay.
walking out, I'm like, well, I can't just let her go back out in that rainy night with no bag, no belongings, a beaten up face. So she
Yeah.
stayed one night in my apartment, and then she stayed
Okay.
another night, and then it just evolved from there. And then I think my first lesson is you can do so much more than you can possibly anticipate. Like, again, if
Yeah.
you'd asked me, would you do this thing? I would have straight up told you, no way. I'm way
Yeah.
too busy. I don't have capacity. I'm not interested. Doesn't sound safe, hygienic.
Mhm.
But you find that your life has a lot of capacity. And I think the other thing you find is when you're in the heart of giving in a meaningful way that I feel you are uniquely designed to give, it's not sacrificial, it's not bitter or painful. It's actually it creates abundance.
Yep.
And you find that you have more time and you have more passion and you wake up more energized because you're in the heart of doing something really good and meaningful to yourself that's not only helping somebody else, but in many ways helping you.
That is so powerful. I've done a lot of research. I volunteer for Rotary, the youth leadership program, and we
Yeah.
always say when we're done with that weekend program that it was as impactful, if not more impactful, for us as volunteers
Ooh,
as it is for the kids. And
totally.
people I think sometimes, I don't know who, but they get like, oh, I tithe my 10%, or I donated to the church, or I give these donations, I do money, which is great, nothing wrong with that. It's necessary. But to be active and actually do something has a ripple effect, as well as the personal side of it. I mean, one of my friends said volunteerism is the most selfish thing you can do. I'm like, what?
Oh, what an
He said, well,
interesting quote.
think about it as well, because you feel you're doing it to make yourself feel better. Technically,
Yeah.
at the base level, yes, we're serving mankind, all that. That's important. But it's fight or flight. It's what makes you feel good or not. This makes you feel good.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's
it's
true.
yeah, that's really crazy. So where were you? What city or country was this?
That was when I was in my undergrad at University of Rochester, so it was in upstate New
Okay.
York.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Wow.
then her name was Leah, or we
Yeah.
call her Leah in the book. She moved on. She ended up with
Hmm.
a foster family so that she could go
Hmm.
back to school. And then another girl off the street that she had met when she was homeless
Uh,
had she kind of connected us, and that was the second girl. She said, "Hey, I stayed there, for I think it was 3 or 4 months. Could you bring this girl in?" And I said, "Well, yeah, of
and
course."
10 years
That
later, Emily's got a whole apartment complex full of women she saved.
So those were the first two, and they were definitely
Yeah.
connected. And then I'll say, like, over time, these young people, sometimes they were teenagers, probably
Hmm.
more often than not. We've had 16 kids over the last 2 decades. More were
Oh my
teenagers.
gosh. Yeah.
Some were babies, and then there was one
Mhm.
sort of like a young adult in his early 20s.
Mhm.
But there's always been this really interesting thread where like one will lead to the next. Now, in this case, one recommended the other, but later one experience somehow unravels
Mhm.
into another. And so a lot of people will ask, are you guys a foster family? How do you sign up for this? And my answer is it is really like this weirdly magical thing. These people
Mhm.
keep finding us. We have never once gone out and said, "Hey, we have a spare room. Who wants to move in?" And I think that's part of what I want to tell the story for is that
Uh-huh.
when you're in the heart of this sort of what I believe you're created to do, like you're
Yeah.
living with intention and intention will find you. Like you will become a magnet for
Yep.
people who need what you have to give.
Yep. You always find what you're looking for, right? If I'm looking for hate, I'll find it. If I'm looking for love, I'll find that. You know?
Oh, that is for sure. I was just talking about that today.
Oh,
Some people.
I actually got rid of all social media from my phone for that reason because I
Oh,
had the wrong
really?
streams. I had the wrong things in there. And as soon as I said, just get rid of it. And I started going for walks in nature. And I'm like, oh, I heard there's a pandemic. I'm not sure, but the trees aren't participating in that. And the birds don't know about it. So we're good.
Yeah. Yeah, you do like attracts like. And some people, we were talking about it today, feed off of positive things. Some people
Yeah.
feed off of negative things. I think
Mhm.
you want to attract yourself. I was talking to my daughter the other day.
Mhm.
I said, I think we generally end up as sort of the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with, right? We are
Yep.
inevitably influenced by the energy around us and the people around us. We sort of form our thoughts based on the inputs that we receive. So it's really important, I was telling her, especially, as a girl in middle school who's surrounded by all
Right.
kind of mean girl drama, it's
Yeah.
important to surround ourselves with what we think builds us up.
Yeah, that's a famous quote. I forgot which person said that years ago. The 5 people you hang out with. It was Brian Tracy or somebody. But
Yeah, I know.
think about how that applies nowadays. We
Hmm.
don't hang out with anybody. We
Yeah,
hang out with this computer thing or our phone, and there's 100 or 1,000 people.
yeah, yeah, that's true.
We need to reset that quote or say something. You'll become the you're not going to become the 1,000 influencers you follow, but you become the 5 people you actually go and meet and have coffee with or something like that.
Yeah.
Update it
Yeah, that's
for the
actually
century
true.
here.
The ones that you make time for, right? That
I,
there's
I
truth
mean,
to
there's
that.
people in my life that I just love and adore, but I don't get a chance to see them because traveling and COVID and
Right.
whatnot.
Yeah,
Huh.
exactly.
I don't know whether I'm
Hmm.
excited or depressed right now. I can't decide.
Well, you have more
Okay, so,
choice than ever before, right? So that's a positive.
well, that's a great thing, right? So I'm in Rio right now because I chose to be here. And people are like, oh, you're going to
Mhm.
Brazil? It's dangerous. I'm like, no, it's not. It's
Oh,
fine. I went to the beach
I
yesterday.
love
It's all
Rio.
good.
Yeah. Every time
Um,
I talk to you, you're in a different country. Honestly.
well, not this year. I've been long stay here, but yeah, I back to your point about not waiting till you retire to do things. I had the
Mhm.
opportunity to take a cruise years ago, and it was a Forbes cruise, right? I got to meet Malcolm Forbes and all that stuff. It was cool. And right before the big, presentation, I'm outside in the lobby. I see about 8 or 9 walkers lined up on the cruise ship.
Okay.
I'm like, okay. So all these people worked their butts off and
Yeah.
then decided to retire and go on this cruise. So I
Mm.
think I'm going to do it before I need a walker.
Yeah.
so I,
I like
so I
that.
decided to start traveling and design my business around what I wanted versus the other way around.
Yeah.
Enough about me. So I want to go back to you. So these people have come into your life over 2 decades. You've been doing this.
Yeah, so Leah was the first. I just turned 20 years old, and the last was a year and a half ago. A girl named Lotus, and she's in the book as well. And
Uh,
she's the one. I think I told you about her before. She grew up in a brothel.
uh,
Her mom is a prostitute.
uh,
She didn't just share a place with her mom. She shared a room. That's all they had.
yeah.
And there's sort of like a community bathroom down the hallway.
Uh, yeah.
So she grew up pretty rough. She was
Right.
for sure the most challenged kid from a mental stability,
Yeah.
spiritual wellness, mental wellness kind of standpoint that we've had,
Hmm.
as well as just sort of personality challenging because for her to have survived where she did for so long, seeing what she had seen, she was a very, very tough kid. And
What was that cut? Was that in U.S. or China? Where was that one?
that one was in China. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like layers of complexity for our family because she was an older sister to my
Yeah.
daughter who's had older girls as siblings, let me think, twice before.
Mhm.
But in a very different way. Like I'd come home and she'd be teaching Lainey dirty dancing. And I was like, oh no.
Let's rechannel that energy somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I have so many. I have I have stories to share with you about a guy I know. I met an Australian former DEA agent who was traveling in Thailand.
Mm-hmm.
And he's at dinner with his wife, and his wife goes to the restroom. Some guy comes by to him and says, "Do you want to buy this girl?" He's like, "Excuse me? Do you want to buy this girl?" He had the little girl. He's like, "No, mate. What are you talking?" He didn't understand it because the sex trafficking was just horrible. He it shocked him so much, he went back or resigned from the DEA and started his own nonprofit to stop sex trafficking. He's been hunting them down his whole for like 10, 15 years now. And the stories he told me were not something you want to repeat, or they won't even put him in a movie. They were so horrible.
Yeah.
Just it's crazy stuff. And the volume of traffic, nobody even understands how big and how horrible it is. Because it's much safer for these guys to do that versus drugs, and more profitable.
Right.
So so you and Glenn are my heroes for sure. That's,
I'd love to meet him because that sounds like a perfect social legacy story. I mean, literally.
I'll give you one more thing. He came to me. We talked real briefly, and he's so cool. Former undercover DEA guy, right? So he's looked at like bad guys in the face with no gun on him. And we're talking about his business, and he wanted to hire us to do some PR for him. And I was telling him about, okay, we could do this, and he's like, money's a little bit of an issue. I'm like, that's fine. Tell me what are you doing to raise that? Well, I'm kind of shy to ask for money.
Oh, for what he's doing?
Well, you think about it. He's so good with the bad guys, but now he's talking to good people and trying to ask them for favors. Tell me a story about what you've done in the past. And after about 10 minutes, I said, "There's no charge for you. You're gonna get this PR.
That's why I love you.
This is whatever you need forever, right?" So I gave him some sales and fundraising training on how to ask by just telling this, like he did to me. Just tell that story, tell them what you're doing, what impact it'll make. Don't even ask for the money; it'll come.
Right.
And about 6 months later, they did a documentary film for him in Australia. His company's called Project Karma, right? Which is interesting word.
Yeah.
I'll connect up with him for sure. But he has no problem that I'm aware of recently and make the thing go. He's an amazing soul that it cost him his marriage. He's like, I'm doing this. Go on. Yeah. But you'll like this from a humanistic standpoint, I think. I asked him about these stories. I said, well, you're in the jungle. You just, caught this guy. I mean, you're a former law enforcement. No one's around. And the stories he told me, I had no problem asking this question. I'm like, well, why wouldn't you just make him disappear? Just put him in the garbage. Just put a bullet in his head and bury it. He said, Doug, I've met enough of these guys to the point where I pity them. The pedophiles, not the traffickers, the pedophiles. He says they're definitely mentally ill, and you wouldn't murder a person who's got Down syndrome. So I wouldn't murder these guys. Just wouldn't do it. But the traffickers, he says, they're evil. And he has such a hard time trying to capture them because as soon as he staked out a place and found it, he had to get local law enforcement to help him out. Right. Well, they're all on the take. Yeah, they're all on the take. So he has to go to the state or federal level and find out who's not on the take at that level and get them to bust the ring. So he's done that a few times. And part of his program you'll like is the mental rehabilitation of these kids. So he's got safe houses set up. Nobody knows where they are. They're completely anonymous. And they've got therapists and people in there to help them, rewire their brains a little bit. But
we definitely should meet. And one of the things I'm passionate about, like in my free time, is as I'm meeting more and more people, like everybody's extraordinary, aren't they? He's just somebody who had that major catalytic moment where he's like, this is now my social legacy. This is what I really care about. This is what I'm able to bring to the table. I'm going to do that. There are lots of people like that. And there are 3 different organizations I know of within Shanghai that are doing similar work. And you just think, if I can help them scale, like bring in the business savvy side, it's like, how do we tell your stories together? How do we help you leverage resources and reduce cost and get to that level? Like International Justice Ministries, they're mostly made up of lawyers because they're all about prosecution and getting to the root of the issue. Eden Ministries is all about how do they find jobs for women, young girls after they're rehabilitated. And you're like, God, I feel like this whole thing kind of fits together,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, get the word out. And the hardest thing is, in business is, asking people for money without a tangible exchange of value. It's like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and just, make you feel good or do. Yeah, It's
Yeah.
it's a little bit tougher for the nonprofit, and NGO world, but it's definitely doable. Just gotta.
It is. It is.
Yeah,
I that's one of the things I think is all of the profits of my book are going to the board that I sit on, the
gotcha.
SOS Children's Villages,
Right.
because it is hard. And I was
Hmm.
thinking this is sort of like the win-win that keeps on giving, hopefully. The
Yeah.
book can be dedicated to them, all the profits go to them, and every time I talk about the book, I hopefully bring a little awareness to them and
Right.
help them generate more awareness on the amazing work that they do.
So they buy a book. Profits go to your nonprofits that you have. What else? What else can we do here? We're just going
What
to
else
brainstorm
can we
right
do?
now.
Oh,
Live.
well, let's do it.
Yeah. Why not? I mean, come on. I mean, a dollar goes a long way, but 1,000 goes even farther. So,
Yeah.
you know, gamify
Well,
it, something.
one thing is, we're doing a couple of live events just for fun because some of the
Okay.
people who are so extraordinary and have their stories told, I want to give them a platform through this book.
Yeah.
So Quentin Robinson is the gentleman who worked 8 years in the military in Afghanistan.
Hmm.
He's now started a nonprofit called Movements for Movements, and I'm going to have a live event and host him.
Nice.
Tara Balwani is this incredible woman who was the lead singer for Cirque du Soleil's show Kuza for many years, I think 7 or 8 years, and then had this major pivotal point where I don't know if you remember the Nirbhaya case. It was a rape case in India. It happened like 2 blocks from her home, and she was sitting
Oh.
in a major theater in London when she saw this thing starting to hit the news. And she was
Oh.
like, I think it brought back a lot of memories from when she grew
Sure.
up in India. And she kind of said, it's this really interesting thing. I just had goosebumps thinking about it. She thought to herself in this grand theater as she prepared to
Mhm.
perform this amazing, outrageous show,
Yeah.
what am I using my voice for? She asked. Am I
Yeah.
using it to make a difference in the best way that I can? And so her chapter is called A Voice for the Voiceless because she decided to use her voice for something else and she wants to commit her life to that. I mean, there's so many extraordinary people. Like the book doesn't generate any profit, but I hope it profits everybody that we talk about. And I hope it gives them a platform and helps people understand that there are unsung heroes
Yeah.
everywhere and they deserve to
Right.
be recognized. And you're an unsung hero. If you are listening to this, if you have read the book and you're like, this is why there's a very simple construct for the social legacy. But people generally will either say, I know the thing that pisses me off, like your friend Glenn. I know the thing that I really want to go after, but I don't know how. Other people will generally say, I kind of have an idea of what I could contribute, whether it's money, time, resource, but I don't know where to direct it. So, really, the social legacy is the intersection of those two very simple things. What is the offense, the thing that calls to you personally? Like when I drove by Leah on the street, I couldn't drive
Uh-huh.
by.
Right.
When Tara saw the Nirbhaya rape case, though she had not experienced that kind of dramatic event personally, it really impacted her personally. And then the other side is the offer. What is it that you uniquely contribute? When you can find the intersection of those two things, that's what we're
Hmm.
calling the legacy. And somebody asked me recently, why don't you call it purpose? And I said, well, it's not that different, but it's more specific. I wanted to push myself to get very specific about what it is that we're helping people identify. So your
Okay.
legacy is something that you leave in the world around you, such that it's better for having had you there, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
your social is defined. You were just talking about how we're not even in person anymore in the States. So
I know.
social is maybe it's only online. Maybe that's your social group. Maybe it's offline. Maybe it's your home. Maybe it's your neighborhood. But you could define social as your workplace, your coworkers. It could be your country. It could be your region. It could be the earth. That could be the thing that really,
Mhm. Yeah. Whatever it
kind
is.
of matters to you. Yeah. So your social legacy is the definition of what your social thing is and then what it is you contribute against what offense. And that's your legacy that you leave behind. And that's what the book is all about. That's the spare room is just a euphemism for that. And
Yeah.
I truly believe the more I talk to people, everyone's got one. So if you haven't figured
Yes.
it out,
Oh
read the
yeah.
book because by the time you close the book, the way
Hold
we've
that book
designed
up, Emily. Let's see that. You have a handy?
I do have one with little notes and stuff in it. Okay, this
That's
is
fine.
wait, am I in
Yeah.
it?
Put it right in front of your face there. Okay. That's good. The spare room, folks. Get this book. Get this book. It's gonna. If it won't change the world, it'll certainly change your world. So get it and do it.
That's
Um,
my hope.
so here's an idea for you because you're a business gal. You understand how to apply what you've learned in one place to somewhere else. Have you ever done like a research on how TEDx talks got started, how they grew and everything?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
When I did my first one, I was a little curious about the process because it was
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
expensive.
It's they've got their process down to a T, right? Exactly. What is it? 20 minutes, 18 minutes. vetting. They get the whole thing, so it can't get polluted with marketing. They've made it very pure.
Yeah.
What if you just started your own? Don't use their brand, but the social. Just model them. Can you imagine all the people like you and Glenn that want to actually give that talk and start your own? Have to take a different moniker for it, but start your own version of TED, just for people who, make a difference.
I love that. I mean, that's the whole idea of this being a movement, because I would love for the dialogue. Somebody asked me the other day too, like, what's success for you? How many sales do you want? I'm like, I don't know. I don't even think I know how many we've sold, because for me, it's not a numbers thing. It's, I would hope we bring some benefit to SOS Children's, but it's really a dialogue in society. It's like, what if people start asking each other, what's your spare room? Oh my God, let me tell you about my spare room. How can I help you find your spare room? Like, yeah, that starts getting really exciting, because I also think stories, and that's why there's so many stories in this book, can inspire new thinking. And it also helps take away the scariness of it, which is, oh, so you're saying a 24-year-old physical therapist living in Arkansas suddenly heard about orphans in Ukraine that can't be adopted because they're deemed unadoptable. And she realized that she could probably help them with some very simple physical therapy exercises, and gave up one of her Christmas vacations to go to the Ukraine. And, 8 years later, hundreds of orphans are now adopted because of this one young girl, right? And she's still living a humble life. Her name is Karen, in Texas, with 4 kids, one of whom she adopted from the Ukraine. Like, she is a total hero. What she's done, I want people to know about. Not because I want to like glamorize her or put her on a pedestal, but I want people to see like the beauty in everybody around us. And
there you go.
I think it changes our empathy, because dude, we all meet people who are tough to work with, who can be a total pain in the ass, right?
Yeah, you fired a client here and then,
I used to tell myself, this is somebody's daughter, this is somebody's husband, like somebody loves this person. So there are really qualities.
Yeah, even Hitler had a grandma. We understand. That's okay. It's all right.
Oh, that might be too far. But
just saying. So SRT, do your SRT talk, your spare room talk.
Spare room talk.
And it started short. It could be like 10 things, three letters. Hard to get the domain, but we'll figure that out. But yeah, I think start the talking series, and the same parameters. Make it no junk, no marketing, just your spare room. What's your spare room talk? Start it, launch it, make it grow, get it viral, get some media on it.
Cool. I'm down with that. That could be really fun.
You ready?
Yep.
All right.
I just had to do it, right? So this is like the cover of the book, which is not beautiful. I understand.
No, it's not. No, who said? No, hold on a second. I've been doing book covers for 12 years.
Okay.
I can pick it apart psychologically for you right now.
Don't, please. Okay.
Number one, it's the spare room with the door opening. You're going to go into a door. There's a psychological, like, what's beyond the door?
Okay.
What's the subtitle say on that? I can't read the subtitle.
Oh, it's very practical, because I wanted it to just, it's the business side of me. It says, define your social legacy to live a more intentional life and lead with authentic purpose.
You've got great colors, right? It's a soft seafoam like green teal, thing there. Yeah, teal. And the spare room, it's very inviting, Emily, because it's got the door openings. You want to go into that spare room.
Oh, good. Well, I was just thinking, as we were talking about this TEDx talk idea, like, can you imagine if this were the stage and every person came out the door? Wouldn't that be cool?
Very cool. So you already got the branding. You got the branding done there.
We'll look back and be like, remember we talked about this idea?
Yeah. Only small thing I'd say is on your Kindle version, you got to increase the font on the subtitle so it's readable on the thumbnail. Just tell your.
Do you know, I have obviously purchased my own Kindle book, but I haven't even opened it yet. And I met my narrator, Cindy Kay, who's amazing, and I downloaded the Audible, but I haven't listened to it yet. So I need to do all these things.
It's just a small thing. I'll have Rika give you a note on a couple of small things they could just to tweak it up for you. But when you go on Amazon and you look at book covers, some of them are unreadable and people gloss over them. So they got to be unreadable on a 75 by 75 pixel thing. That's all. It's just minor thing. Good tip. Awesome. All right, so we're gonna do this again. I think we'll hop on another call. Again, we'll do one now, one for Mother's Day week. That'll be good.
Okay.
If you can. That way I could do, like you said, do some promotion on this stuff, and we'll spice it up. I'll put those wonderful testimonies you have from CEO of Williams Sonoma, Ariana Huffington, Playa. Playa.
Well, this is like, these are generous souls. They're people who share a philosophy, and they're willing to share their name
Right.
and promote something that they think is worth sharing. And I was very, very grateful.
Yeah. Well, it goes a long way in marketing, as you probably know, that,
Yeah.
name drop. We love celebrity branding. It works. As much as we love it and hate it, it still works. So got to use it. All right. The Spare Room, folks, available for a special offer on Mother's Day week coming up here. So go to Amazon and you'll get it for, I think we're going to do it for 99 cents that week, huh?
That's right.
Special
Mother's Day
Special
offer.
Special Mother's offer. Most importantly, don't buy one copy. Buy one for yourself and one for somebody else. If you don't do that, you're not embracing the topic here. Seriously, you should buy 10 and give them away to your friends. That's a good promotion. We'll talk about that before Mother's Day, actually, or maybe after. Okay. Let's talk about doing a bulk promotion for you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
I'll tell you. I have a quick story about this. You'll like this. Bill Glazer from Glazer Canada, good marketing guy, had this great promotion for his book, Outrageous Advertising. It's Bill in like this straight jacket. It's a funny guy. And I'm going through his funnel, all those things about how to get his book, right? Buy a book, if you buy the book now, pre-order it, I'll give you the PDF for free right now. I'm like, okay, cool. So I click on that. The next page says, now, if you want to get a $2,000 ticket to my event for free, buy 10 books and give them to your friends and business associates. So I'm like, I get a $2,000 ticket to the event for buying 10 books? Done.
Great
a couple $100, done, right? Ask me if I went to his event. I didn't even go. It was the wrong time, but the marketing of like getting this ticket, and I bought 10 books. I gave away 9. I kept 1. It served its purpose,
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm not saying, but in terms of our events, for the SRT talks, it'll be different. Right?
SRT talks. I got to think about that a little more. I like the idea a lot. Somebody else asked me, would you be doing, because they've just gone through the exercises, and I've been starting to get feedback from people on social-legacy.com website. And they're kind of like, well, what about this? Have you thought about this? Somebody loved the exercises so much. She said, would you do a training program like this? I would love to see this brought to my office. And I thought, I do have a day job I love. So if there becomes overwhelming demand for something like that, I'm still willing to dance to life's rhythms and go wherever it goes. But,
and you get people like that become advocates, you don't have to do it all yourself. I'll help.
Okay. I'll take you up on that.
Easy enough. And then other people who believe in it, they love being part of something, right? The whole tribal thing of being part of something and saying, "No, I've got the badge as an advocate for the spare room advocacy, or spare room. I'm a in the fraternity. I'm a junior liaison officer." You can make up a bunch of titles, but as soon as you've gone through the training, you can be a spare room advocate and do your own. It's all the it's like licensing, franchising type of thing, but you do it at the at that kind of level. It's leverage it. Don't do it all yourself. Keep your job for a while.
I love this job.
Yeah. Okay.
And the book is just supposed to be this, like, let's see where the movement takes off. And that's what I want to be open to. Like, it might go in one direction. It might go in a totally different. It might go in to become a training course one, whatever it is. Yeah. Or maybe it just stays where it is and just starts touching, one person who reads it at a time. I'm totally open with. Yeah. That's
all good too. Awesome. All right, folks, the Spare Room. Get it on Amazon. Reserve it now. Get it Mother's Day week, whatever works for you, and buy more than one copy if you've got the if you understand what we're talking about here. All right, Emily, we'll definitely talk again. We're going to do this again. I'll set up something a little more organized, but good job.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Doug, for everything.
Talk to you. Bye-bye.
Bye.